My husband didn't know my baby monitor was streaming when I left for my evening shift, and what he said to his mistress about poisoning me made me call 911. Every one of your subscriptions encourages us to keep showing up. Please subscribe and let us know where you're watching from. It's always a pleasure to see. It started like every other Thursday. Soft rain tapping against the kitchen window, the smell of formula and lavender lotion in the air. I remember wiping the counter, humming to a song that didn't exist, half tired, half grateful that our daughter had finally fallen asleep. Her name was Ellie, 8 months old, the reason I still smiled when my marriage stopped making sense. That night, I worked the late shift at St. Clair's urgent care. I was a nurse, the kind that could feel a fever before a thermometer confirmed it. But lately, my intuition had been warning me about something else entirely. Something colder, invisible. My husband, Aiden, had been off. The kind of off you can't quite name but can feel in your bones. The way he avoided my eyes during dinner, the sudden business trips, the new cologne that wasn't mine. I told myself I was paranoid, postpartum hormones, exhaustion, loneliness. But paranoia doesn't make your stomach clench every time your husband touches your shoulder. I felt the air leave my lungs. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming, some twisted hallucination of overwork. But then I heard Ellie's soft whimper. The woman stood up and leaned over her crib. "She looks just like her," she murmured. "Are you sure you'll be able to handle it when she's gone?" Aiden's response made my blood run cold. "Once she's out of the picture, everything else will fall into place. The insurance clears in a week." The baby monitor glitched for a second, flickering between static and clarity, enough for me to see him pick up the mug and swirl it, his face completely calm. That calm terrified me more than anything. I remember my hand shaking so hard that I nearly dropped my phone. My first instinct was denial. This can't be real. But when you work in healthcare, you learn to trust your gut. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and ran to the nurse's station. My colleague, Denise, looked up from her chart. "Faith, are you okay?" I couldn't even speak. I just shoved the phone to her. She watched for 5 seconds before her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God, is that your—" "Yes," I said. "That's my husband." She whispered, "Call the police." But something inside me hesitated. The kind of hesitation that comes from years of loving someone who slowly trained you not to trust yourself. What if it was just words? What if they were joking? No, you don't joke about insurance and tasteless poison. I called 911. My voice cracked halfway through the call, and the operator, a woman, kept repeating gently, "Ma'am, stay calm. Where is your child right now?" "At home. With him." The room spun. Within minutes, 2 officers arrived at the clinic, Detective Moore and Officer Riley. Moore was older, kind eyes, no nonsense. Riley was quiet, holding a notepad like it was sacred. They reviewed the footage in silence. When Aiden's voice replayed, "It has to look natural," Moore looked at me with an expression I'll never forget. "We need to get your daughter out of that house now."
We drove in separate cars, them ahead, me behind. Every streetlight felt like judgment. Every red light felt too long. When we reached the house, it was eerily quiet. My living room lights were still on, the curtains half drawn. The officers went in first. I waited outside, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. Then, faintly, Ellie's cry. A sound I'd never been so grateful to hear. It turned out Aiden had fallen asleep on the couch. The mug from the video was still on the dresser in Ellie's room. Inside it, traces of a powder, later confirmed to be cyanide. He was arrested on the spot. The woman, his mistress, had left 30 minutes before the officers arrived. I remember standing in the doorway, looking at the mug under the soft nightlight glow. That was supposed to be my last morning coffee. The days that followed were a blur of police statements, sleepless nights, and Ellie's innocent laughter echoing through an empty house. The footage spread through the investigation team like wildfire. Every officer who watched it winced. One whispered, "You're lucky that monitor was on." Lucky. That word haunted me. Was it luck or divine intervention through a piece of cheap technology? When the news broke, my parents called. My mother cried like she was mourning a ghost. Mine. My father didn't say much, just silence, then a deep exhale that carried years of disappointment he didn't know where to place. He asked quietly, "Why didn't you see it sooner?" Because love blinds more than poison ever could.
That night, after the police left, I sat in Ellie's room. Same rocking chair, same faint lavender smell. I watched her sleep. Her tiny hand twitched, her lips pursed like she was dreaming. I wanted to cry, but nothing came. I was beyond tears, just an empty shell of adrenaline and disbelief. I looked at the baby monitor sitting beside me, its red light blinking. That small device had seen the moment my world ended and began again. When dawn came, I brewed myself a cup of coffee. Black. No sugar, no cream. For the first time, I stared at it and didn't drink. I thought the nightmare was over the night the police carried him away. But in truth, that was only the beginning. Detective Moore called me 3 days later. He asked me to come down to the station. His tone was different this time. Heavier, careful. When I arrived, he slid a folder across the table. Inside were bank statements, my name, my signature, transactions I didn't make, offshore transfers, thousands of dollars. I blinked at them, confused. "These aren't mine." He nodded. "We know. The transfers came from a joint account, yours and Aiden's. The IP trace shows they were made from his office computer." Each page felt like another blade. Savings I'd built over years for Ellie's education, for emergencies, for hope. Gone. Moore sighed. "There's more. He took out a life insurance policy in your name, forged as a dual signature, 2 weeks before the poisoning attempt." The air left the room. I pressed my hand over my mouth, trying not to break. All those mornings I thought he was working late, he was plotting how to cash in my death. And then came the part that destroyed me. Detective Moore's eyes softened. "Faith, do you remember your brother's accident 2 years ago?" I frowned. "Of course. The car crash. Why?" He hesitated. "We reopened the file. The timing, the location, it lines up with phone records from Aiden. He was there minutes before it happened." My chest tightened. "What are you saying?" Moore slid another file forward. Photos, reports, tire marks. Your brother had confronted him. He'd caught Aiden at a hotel with Maya. We found texts where your brother threatened to tell you. The world tilted. I gripped the edge of the table. "You're saying he..." Moore's silence was my answer. I couldn't breathe. My baby monitor had saved me, but no one had saved my brother. By the next morning, the story had hit the news. The poison plot, husband's secret crimes unraveled. New evidence suggests murder for love triangle. The internet did what it does best. It divided. Some called me a survivor, others called me a liar. She's playing the victim. Maybe she drove him to it. No man does that without reason. I stopped reading after a while.
But one headline burned into me. Faith Miller, the woman who lived. As if surviving was something I should apologize for. Then came the trial. The courthouse buzzed like a hive. Cameras, reporters, whispers. Aiden looked different. No remorse, just calculation. Like a man rearranging lies in his head. Maya sat behind him, immaculate in a white blouse, eyes rimmed in pink. Perfect picture of innocence.
The prosecution laid out the evidence, the poisoning plan, the offshore accounts, the falsified insurance, the link to my brother's death. It should have been open and shut. But then Maya took the stand. Her voice was trembling, almost poetic. She said she'd been manipulated, that Aiden controlled her, that she feared for her life. He told me she was abusive, she said, gesturing toward me, that she'd hurt him if he tried to leave. The room murmured. Aiden looked at her, feigning surprise, then pain. It was theater, but they were good actors. The prosecutor tried to corner her with contradictions, but Maya wept on cue. The jury watched with pity. I sat frozen, my hands clenched so tightly, my nails dug into my palms. It wasn't just a trial anymore. It was a performance, and I was the villain in their script. Then Aiden's lawyer stood, sleek, calm, every word sharpened like a scalpel. He approached me on the stand. "Mrs. Miller," he said, "you claim you had no idea your husband was having an affair." "I didn't," I replied. He nodded, pretending sympathy. "And yet you were working nights, yes? Absent from home. Could it be that you neglected him, emotionally?" I stared at him. I was saving lives, including his. The room stirred. He smiled faintly. "And isn't it true, Mrs. Miller, that your relationship had grown strained before the incident?" I refused to look away. Straining doesn't justify murder. He leaned closer. But it might justify desperation, perhaps even a misunderstanding of your marital intentions. It was a trap, emotional ambush disguised as logic. I felt my throat tighten, but I didn't break. "Misunderstanding?" I whispered. "He put cyanide in my coffee. There's no misunderstanding in death." Silence swept the courtroom. Even the judge looked up. The lawyer stepped back, face tightening. That was the first time I realized truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand. The final day of trial was chaotic. The jury was split. Maya's tears had swayed some hearts, Aiden's composure others. When the verdict came, I didn't breathe. We, the jury, find the defendant, Aiden Miller, guilty of attempted murder, fraud, and manslaughter. A sound left my chest I didn't recognize. Half sob, half relief. But before I could exhale, the judge continued. We also find co-defendant Maya Grant guilty of conspiracy and perjury. Her face cracked. Her tears stopped. Her mask slipped. For a second, our eyes met. There was no hatred, just a hollow kind of recognition. Two women destroyed by the same man. One loved him, one believed him. Both nearly died for it. When the gavel fell, I didn't feel victory, just exhaustion. Reporters shouted questions as I left a courthouse, their microphones like weapons. How does it feel to win? What's next for you? Win? There's no winning when the person you once loved becomes the villain in your life story. They say silence feels different after a storm. Heavier, somehow. Like the air is still trying to remember what noise sounded like. When the verdict was read, I didn't cry. I thought I would. Maybe fall to my knees, maybe gasp, maybe feel vindicated. But I didn't. I just stood there, hands clasped together, watching the judge's lips move as Aiden's name echoed in the courtroom like a word that had finally lost its power. 25 years for him, 12 for her. Justice, that's what everyone called it. But justice doesn't tuck you in at night or stop you from waking up at 2:17 a.m. hearing phantom sounds from a baby monitor that isn't even plugged in anymore.
The internet tore itself apart over my story. Half the world saw me as the woman who exposed evil through divine timing and digital evidence. The other half called me an overreactive wife who should have handled things privately. People wrote essays, podcasts, and YouTube breakdowns dissecting my pain. Some analyzed my voice in court, others the look in Aiden's eyes when he realized his mask had fallen off for good. One commentator said, "She won the trial but lost her soul." I remember reading that line one night, my daughter asleep beside me, and thinking, maybe they weren't entirely wrong. After the trial, I sold the house. I couldn't walk past that kitchen without seeing him at the counter, smiling over coffee, hands already plotting. I moved 2 cities away, a quiet suburb where nobody knew my name or the story that made me infamous. Every morning, I'd walk my daughter to daycare. Her tiny hand would slip into mine, soft and trusting, and for a few minutes, I'd remember what safety felt like. But trauma is strange. It doesn't leave when you do. It hides in the corners, in sudden sounds, in the way you flinch when someone calls your name too softly. I went through therapy. I learned about hypervigilance, PTSD triggers, and something my therapist called survivor's freeze. It's when your body learns how to live again after it has forgotten what peace feels like.
The day I forgave and felt somewhat free. It was an ordinary Tuesday. I was folding laundry, a mundane act that once felt impossible during the storm of trials and reporters. The radio played faintly in the background, a sermon. Something about forgiveness not being weakness, but freedom. I sat down on the floor, surrounded by half-folded clothes, and whispered out loud, "I forgive you, Aiden." Not because he deserved it, but because I was tired of carrying him in every heartbeat, every nightmare. Forgiveness, I realized, was survival, not surrender. 3 months later, I received a letter from the correctional facility. It was from Maya. My hands trembled just seeing her name. I almost tore it apart without reading. But curiosity won. She wrote that she had lied under oath, that Aiden had indeed orchestrated everything, from my financial ruin to my brother's death. She said that she'd been threatened, trapped, and believed she had no way out. At the end, she wrote, "If there's any God left, I hope he forgives me for the things I did to a woman who never deserved any of it." I didn't reply, but for the first time in a long time, I felt something resembling closure. Months turned to a year. I went back to school, psychology. Maybe it was ironic, or maybe it was destiny. I wanted to understand how people become monsters behind familiar smiles. Eventually, I started a small online group, The Silent Survivors, a safe place for anyone who had been gaslit, betrayed, or nearly destroyed by someone they loved. It grew faster than I expected. One night, a woman messaged me saying my story gave her the courage to leave her abusive marriage. And for the first time, I realized maybe survival isn't just about staying alive. Maybe it's about using your wounds to light the path for someone else. Sometimes I still wake up at 2:17 a.m. Not from fear, but memory. The monitor no longer sits by the crib. Instead, I keep it in a box, labeled "The Night That Saved Us." When my daughter is old enough, I'll tell her everything, not to make her afraid, but to remind her. Truth has a way of finding light, even through static, through noise, through lies. Sometimes survival looks nothing like winning. It looks like rebuilding, one slow, trembling step at a time. It looks like believing what you see, even when love tells you not to. Because the truth doesn't just save you, it rebirths you. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Have you ever discovered a truth that changed everything? Share your thoughts below. And remember, you're stronger than you know.